So Mr. Mamdani is offering, for instance, that there is going to wind up being this freeze on rents, okay?
Yeah.
And there's going to be free busing, and there's going to be free childcare. And I guess we're shifting a little bit here from religious to now economic policy. When you go back to London, they did that same sort of thing. Crime up by 30% in terms of violent crime, 7.5% uptick in women being sexually violated. The bus system there, the travel system there in London is near bankrupt. So Mamdani wants to give away things for free, which basically is also a Democrat talking point.
Sure.
And nothing is for free, Kim. So
Right.
when you are telling the businesses that generate jobs, that are basically the heartbeat of your city, that we are going to tax you more so we could give other people free things, it doesn't work. The basis of America is not socialism. Socialism is one of those things that incentivizes people to not innovate, incentivizes people not to have to work, incentivizes people to say, why would I want to work? Why do I want to work and give away 65% of what it is I'm doing? And then meanwhile, I got somebody who's sitting on their ass and they're getting their free this and they're getting their free that. So these policies that the Democrats continuously push for, giving out drug needles to people and stuff, that's why you've got a decay in the United States cities. And when you look at New York City specifically, you're right. And look, I lived in New York, so nobody's going to sell me differently, just like you're not going to sell me what happened on 9/11. I saw it with my own two eyes. So we had a guy named David Dinkins. He was a black Democrat, and I'm only bringing up the black thing because I'm going with the diversity here. We had a black Democrat that got voted into office. He ran the city into the ground. Everything from the murder rate to the drug rate to everything you could imagine. People were fleeing. Rudy Giuliani comes in, changes the whole thing all around. Bloomberg, a businessman who came in as a Republican and wound up leaving as an independent, kept that going. And then we got de Blasio. Then we got Mayor Adams. And now we're getting a socialist. And I can tell you, if you said to me, I'm going to go to New York City, I would say, don't go, Kim. Don't go. It's not a safe place. It's not a nice place anymore. It's a bad place. It's all run down. And when you start telling landlords who own buildings that they're going to have rent control, they're not going to be able to pay their costs. You know what happens? They stop putting money into the buildings. They write it off as a loss on their taxes. And then it winds up becoming slums. That is what you're going to see in New York City. It is going to be slums. Guaranteed.
Okay. Well, so the only reason why I disagree on this is because we have so many examples. I don't think it's the policies themselves that cause these problems. There is definitely a problem. I agree with you on that. But I don't think it's the policies themselves that cause that problem. And the reason why I say that is because if it were the policies, then it would be true everywhere. You have to stay logically consistent. So if the policy is the trigger that causes the decay, then the policy implemented everywhere would always end up triggering decay. But we don't see that. Like in the Scandinavian countries, Germany, for example, also. So you've got the Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, you've got Germany. So then whenever I bring this up, I will say that then the next counterpoint, when I say, yeah, but these countries run just fine, highly productive. I mean, Germany's coming out with everything. And so are the Scandinavian countries. These are highly productive countries. And they have many of these high taxes and many of the giveaways, and they're not in decay. Then the next response is, well, but they're also homogenous, right? It's like, well, but they are all white people. So then you can't blame it so now you're blaming it on race. It's not the policies. It's actually the fact that, so then it must be racial, not policy. So that's what I'm saying. I would love to be able to solve the problem of what is causing the rot in the big cities. But my problem with it logically is that, I don't have an example of a functioning big city run by Republicans. And because I lack that example entirely, I can't say, well, it's because of their politics, because they're liberals, when I don't have an example of conservatives doing it. That's not because conservatives have failed. I just don't have the example on that. If I got an example, then I'd be able to say, yeah, you're right. Conservatives run it better. Like, look at them running this major big city in America with millions of people compared to the liberals. Like, it's working better. I just don't have that example. And the same thing is with, it's the socialist policies is this problem. I can point to several examples of it working, And then the rebuttal to that is always racial. So then it must be the race issue, not actually an economic policy issue. I'm just trying to make it make sense in my mind.
Well, there's again, there's so much to unpack there. I feel like we're tangling many different things into a into like, the computers here.
Yeah.
I see all the wires tangled. I'd never be able to untangle them. So I'm going to try to pick one and go there. I would push back on you that the Scandinavian countries are this beacon of example. But we could get back to that for a second, because I'm more proficient in being an expert in my country than I am in Sweden. However, one of my best friends is from Sweden. And the reason why she came here is because she wanted to run away from the socialism that was taking over that country for the longest time, getting worse.
I mean, it's been there
worse.
it's not taking over. It's been there for a long time.
Taking over in the sense that it is accelerating, because what I was going to say to you, you brought race. It is accelerating in terms of being a bad situation because they're taking in so many migrants. And so the socialism is increasing in the sense that I'm giving my money over and you're giving it to people who aren't even native born. And so now you're telling me to go to work, pay taxes of 65%. I got to wait for my socialized medicine 8 months to get an MRI. And then if they even say that they're going to approve the operation that I really should get for my back, I got to wait another year. So what happens to me in 2 years? And why am I waiting so long? Oh, because you're giving the same kind of services that migrants come over. So that's a conversation you're going to have to invite me back.
That's a migrant issue, right? That's not a policy issue.
No, it is.
Right, that's like a flooding in of too many people with no.
Tim, you're missing that one. If you want to have me back to discuss about that, I'll do that all day long with the migrant stuff. But that is, Kim, with all due respect, that is policy and migration colliding. So it has stuff to do with policy. I want to bring it back to what you're saying here about the United States of America. Okay. If you want to really dissect the problem and you want to go into policy and race, I can do that with you. Okay. Here's something that you need to know in terms of a fact. Fatherless families in the United States of America, the single worst is the Black community. Second worst, Latino. Third is white, and the least amount are Asian. All right. So do it the reverse way. Asian best, white next, Latino, and then Black at the bottom.
As far as having fathers in the home is what you're saying.
Fathers in the home. Fathers in the home.
Okay.
When you look at the top earners in the country, Asians first, whites second, Latinos third, and Blacks last. If you don't see the correlation, that's just not by coincidence. Now take a look at who overly, always votes for the Democrat Party. The Blacks always vote for the Democrat Party. So what winds up happening is that the policies that the Democrats put out keep these communities down. They can't get out of their way. So when you want to take race into it, which I didn't want to, but if you want to take race into it and plug it in, it's a nightmare. And I'll tell you what, you want to know why?
Well, I would say it's culture. I wouldn't say it's race, it's culture.
Well, well, no, you said the word race, so that's why I brought it back in.
But I don't think it's race. I think it's culture.
Okay, well, just put that to the side for 1 second. I want to finish my thought here about what meant with Mamdani. The reason why Mamdani won that election is not because of his policies. That's not why it is. The reason why, and I disagree with my president. He said it was because of the shutdown. I think that is bullshit, because Mamdani was leading in the polls significantly before there was ever a shutdown. Okay. Yeah. To me, that's kicking the can. The reason why this happened is because this country has been taking in mass legal immigration at 1.2 million a year minimum, some years going up to 1.9 for decades. And Mamdani said it last night himself. There are 1 million Muslims now in New York City. If you rip out the foreign born and just look at the native born, he was polling at about 30%. He never wins. But when you take the foreign born and you put them in, then he's at 67%. And this is how he wins the election. So when you talk about culture, when you talk about race, you've got people who are coming from countries that have economic policies and rules and laws, as you would say, that are just horrific, and they're running from them, but then they're coming here and they're voting for those same things. And it's no different, Kim, than I can tell you when we're here in Florida. You know what our big concern is right now? Our home values here are going to skyrocket even more than they already have, because there's going to be a mass exodus from New York coming to Florida. And I can tell you our number one concern, because I lived through it myself, because I'm a New Yorker who moved down here, our number one concern is that they're going to take their policies and want to bring them here to New York. And it happens every time. When I moved here at the end of COVID because I couldn't take it anymore. They were putting double masks on my kid. I said, let's go to Florida. When I got here and I needed to have things done to my house and things like that nature, they would say to me, okay, where are you from? And I said, New York. And it was like they melted. I would have to say to them, I'm from New York because I don't like Cuomo. I like DeSantis. And then all of a sudden, I got the normal price versus the FU price. So we don't want those policies. We don't want those mindsets here in our state, in the same way that we don't want the mindset and the policies of other places like the Middle East, where people are supposed to be fleeing from. We don't want that here. What people should be able to do, Kim, and I'll talk about this all day long. I will blame the Republican Party all day long. The Republican Party is supposed to be the party of independence. We're supposed to be the self-reliance. Go out, make something of yourself. And yet we don't give them enough tools to do that. We talk about it, but entrepreneurship in this country has been on the decline now for decades. And every time we get a chance to turn things around, we're on planes to go to Malaysia and to Japan. And I'm like, whoa, we're losing our country, to mass immigration, because people want to take their culture over here, live free, but have their cultures here in such a way where they're bringing their rules in. And number two is because we're forgetting about what this country was built on. And it was built on small business and entrepreneurs. And if Kim wants to do a podcast, she goes to Rumble. She doesn't have a single follower. And now all of a sudden she's got hundreds of thousands. And now she's got advertisements. And the more people you get, the more people they're going to pay you for the advertising. That is capitalism. When you look today and you get kids today to talk about capitalism or socialism, the majority of them have favoritism towards socialism versus capitalism. That is going to be the decline of this country. We will lose our country if we have our kids thinking that the best way for them to survive is to have somebody else pay for them, to rely on the government. You don't rely on the government. You rely on your success through your advertisements and doing all you can for your show, and you work really hard at it. That's capitalism. We're not pushing people enough in that direction.
I agree with you on that completely. That's why I say it's cultural. I think we have a culture issue that requires us to shift that mentality. But I will say, I don't think it has to do with the immigrants, because what I've seen and what history has shown us is that the immigrants often come and they become the entrepreneurs. They're the ones working their asses off. They're the ones out there hustling, and they're doing an excellent job of that. If anything, the kind of the mooching class are the people that have been here for a lot longer. And so I don't think it's coming from the immigrants on that. I do think, I agree that immigrants at first often need, especially if they're refugees, they're going to need assistance in the beginning, but that assistance is short-lived and it goes away. But a lot of them come here and they want to be my family from Vietnam, I'll tell you, is way more entrepreneurial than my white family that's been here for generations and generations. A lot more entrepreneurial and a lot more successful because of it. So
and I'm not doubting
that's a story.
I'm not doubting that immigrants are. I'm not doubting that immigrants are. Listen, I think one of the worst things we can do in the media is speak in general strokes, to where if I say immigrants are coming here and want to change America, no, I don't say that immigrants are coming here and want to change America. There are a certain amount of immigrants coming from certain countries who want to come here and impose what it is that they had in their country, because that is the doctrine for them. Their doctrine, just like the Muslim Brotherhood, we're going to come there and we're going to take over America from within. Just out of the gate, they talk out of the wrong side of their mouth. We're going to take it over from within. Nobody wants that. So I believe in immigration. I believe it needs to be vetted. It needs to be controlled. I don't know if you know this or not. I do, because this is what I specialize in. Do you have an inclination of if you want to come over for a visa and you want to get a visa to come over to the country. Let's say it's a travel visa, it's a work visa, it's a visa. Do you know how long your interview is with the consulate in the country that you're in?
No.
I'll give you a guess.
20 minutes.
What should it be, Kim?
Probably 20 minutes. Probably 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I say that because I am immigrating to another country and I'm going through this process and it's not that difficult. I mean,
okay.
30-minute interview at most.
2 to 3 minutes, Kim.
Okay.
So here's the thing, right? If you were to fire your producer tomorrow, which I don't think you should, he sounds like a pretty nice guy. But if you were to fire your producer tomorrow and you were to go to look to hire a new one, you'd be putting a lot more than 20 minutes into making sure you got the right person. I just had a sheriff here.
But that's not how it works. I mean, the consulate, for one, that's America controlling that. So you're criticizing the American system, right?
Yes.
Because you don't go to they're going to the American consulate in whatever country they're in. So this is this is on the American side causing this issue, but also it doesn't, maybe your interview's real quick. They just want to see who you are. The interview's not, you have to submit everything well before that interview. They're doing the background check on you. They have to do an FBI background check or whatever. They have to do, there's a variety of things that they do. And then they take your passport and they sit there and they process all of your stuff for many weeks before they give you back and, a yes or a no. So the interview part is just one very small part of the immigration process. I think they just want to see that you're who you say you are. They just want to see you and meet you. And that's really kind of it.
No. So
yeah, because there's nothing else they do in these interviews. You've already submitted everything to them. You have to, in order to get that visa, you have to submit everything in advance. You have to show them everything. And then the interview, we're checking on you. Like, are you you? Yeah. Okay, great. And so what do you want to do in this country? Like, what are you going to do? And that's pretty much it.
In fiscal year 2024, so when we give out visas, we give out immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas. Those are the two different types of visas we give out.
Right.
The immigrant visas, for your listeners, those are people who are actually going to come here with the idea they're going to get a green card and look to be permanent residents.
Citizens, eventually, yeah. It's a path towards citizenship, sure.
Right. The non-citizen is the person who's coming here for school, work, travel, temporary status.
Short-term.
Okay.
Right. Short-term. Yeah.
Okay. In 2024, just the non-citizen visas alone, you know how many we gave out?
How many?
11.5 million. Do you know how many people work? Do you know how many people work for the department that actually even just works in that? Not how many people do vetting. How many people work in that is 20,000. So you've got a person who at any given day will have to go through 100 applications a day. Now, when you're talking about the consulates and you're talking about the embassies, yes, there are American workers working there. Many of those American workers are people who are, American, but they're from that original nation. And we also hire people, local people, to help facilitate. So if you're a person who, and I know this, I'm not making this up. I got this directly from ICE, or it used to be INS, one of the top INS agents in the entire country, Mike Cutler. And remember, I've made 4 movies on this stuff. So unfortunately, Kim, I know more than I want to know. And because when I lived 9/11, I wanted to understand how it is that was allowed to happen. So what winds up happening is that you've got these local people. They're not making any money really to be said. And now all of a sudden you got a guy who's got bad intent. He wants to cut the line. He wants to get his visas. No problem. He's going to give a guy who works there $5,000. He's going to say, you're going to get me that visa. If you don't get me that visa, you're pretty much not going to come home alive. And oh, by the way, I got 12 friends who want to do the same thing. And it's, wait, 12 times 5,000. I'm going to have this money all of a sudden. And okay. And I get you the visas. And that is our visa program. Our visa program is so broken. And the majority of people who have been in this country illegally for so many years, the majority have been visa violators. When you look at the 9/11 terrorists and the 9/11 commission went back, they took a look at it and they said the number one way for a terrorist to take down this country at any level, whether it's taking down a building or trying to take it over from within, is through our visa program. Before 9/11, there's also a visa waiver program where there's no visa at all. before 9/11, we had 26 of those countries, meaning you didn't have to go through anything. You just wanted to come here, fine, you could come on in. We were doing it based on trust. There was
Right.
26 prior to 9/11. Based on what I just told you is, and assume for the matter that I'm giving you everything 100% factual, how many countries today after 9/11 should we have on a visa waiver program? I'm asking you your opinion.
Yeah. So how many I think we should have on a visa waiver program?
We had 26
Before
visa
9/11.
waiver programs before 9/11. I just explained to you the
I
process
heard
for
you.
giving
I
out.
heard you.
Okay.
I heard you.
I how many should we have to keep ourselves safe and making sure that we don't get people that are going to
I
come
don't
into
know.
this country?
I mean,
with bad intent?
thinking
What would you
about
do
all the
if you-
countries, I think 35, probably 35 countries I could rattle off the top of my head that should be on a visa waiver program with the United States. Sure.
So you would increase it.
Well,
would have
all of
increased
Europe, you're on a visa waiver program for everywhere in the Schengen zone of Europe. So you can go into Italy anytime you want. You can go to Ireland anytime you want. You don't have to go and apply for a visa. You just you just book a trip. You just go to kayak.com and book a trip and you can go. That's a visa waiver program.
When was the
Canada,
last time?
same thing.
When was the last time that Italy had a 9/11 style terror attack?
I mean, Europe has terror attacks all the time.
Yeah,
but
they have.
nonetheless,
And who carries them out?
I mean,
Kim?
I'm not, I mean, look, Dennis, I am
Carrie,
not at
who
all
carries them
going
out?
to advocate. I am not going to advocate for 1 second to have to eradicate our visa waiver program with Europe. Too many people from Europe come to the United States. The United States, a lot of Americans love to be in Europe. I don't think that we should be eradicating a visa waiver program to Europe.
Well, the answer to the question I asked you is 42.
Well, that's what. Right, so
we have
that sounds right to
42.
me. There's more. For one, there's more country. The little countries in Europe keep getting carved up every day. So now you've got more in the Schengen zone. You've got Canada. You've got Australia. You've got plenty of countries where, yeah, I don't.
Right.
They can come and vacation in the
each one
United
of these
States. We want
countries-
tourism.
Each one of these countries have absolutely opened their door to people from the same countries that people like myself are uncomfortable with because they have ill intent for the United States of America. So I think we're being pretty sloppy. And I think the best way for me to say this to you is if your house got stolen from tomorrow, the last thing you're going to do is say, let's get rid of all the locks, let's turn off the alarm, and let's leave the door open for 42 people to come in instead of 26. You would not. You would lock it down even more. You would want to have more security. You'd want to make sure that you were safe. It doesn't mean that you hate everybody that you see in the street. It just means that you want to protect your home. We want to protect our homeland. That's it. I mean, it's a very simple thing. We want to vet who's coming here correctly. You cannot vet a person coming into your country in a matter of 2 to 3 minutes or through just a piece of paperwork when you've only got 20,000 people processing over 11 million. It is just statistically, mathematically impossible, Kim.
Well, I like to just, go and visit Italy anytime I want, which is why I'm getting the visa to Italy. So that I can live there whenever I feel like it.
Yeah, Kim, you don't have ill intent. You haven't been posting all over social media death to Italy.
Right. But that's the thing is they do look at that. There is the visa waiver program is not
they don't look at
one
it
that
too good, Kim.
It doesn't. Okay.
Kim, if they looked at it well, we wouldn't have had 9/11, Kim. If they looked at it well, we wouldn't have had 9/11. 9/11 was caused because 19 people, more than 19 people, actually put fraudulent information on their visas to the United States of America.
Yeah.
We have too many people coming in here. It's going through, the turnstiles, not enough people to do it. We had an actual terrorist who died in 9/11, 8 months later be approved for flight school in Florida. So our checks and balances are not working, Kim.
Right.
So basically it comes down to this. If we didn't take so many of these people in all the time, and I understand where you're coming from. Your mother, you said, was a refugee from Vietnam. Nobody's saying that we shouldn't be taking in immigrants. What we're saying is we need to vet people better. And if we would have vetted Mamdani a little better than we did, maybe we would have seen what he aligned with and who he aligned with before we invited him over here and let him start the Justice of Palestine group for Students for Palestine. So all we're saying is let's slow it down a little bit. Let's be a little bit more selective about who comes over here on a merit-based program. Maybe we could be all a little bit safer. And this country was not built on socialism. This country did not become the freaking epicenter of everything based on socialism. It was on capitalism and empowering people to be entrepreneurs and self-reliant. And that is not what we have going on right now in this country in Democrat cities at all. And that's why they're crumbling.
Dennis, this has been such a lively conversation and so interesting. I've really enjoyed it. Even if we don't agree, I just think this has been a really great conversation. I know that the audience enjoyed it as well. I really appreciate you being here. And I would love to have you back.
A lot of times the two sides, when they don't agree, somebody is usually rude. And I will say that you were not rude and you were very polite. And I hope you felt the same way, even though sometimes I got passionate. Yeah. So maybe we do, we do it again.
We must, we should feel passionate about what we think and what we believe, right? Otherwise, but always be amenable to change our minds, which I always am, and I think you did make some really great points. So I really appreciate it. I would love to have you. We didn't get to a couple of the things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about liberal women. I wanted to talk about the future of the Republican Party, but we'll have to do that another time because we've run out of time.
Absolutely.
We've completely run over time.
I'd love to talk about it. Anytime you want me back, so you're a professional. So I'll be back 100%. Thank you for having me on the show. Good luck.
Tell us how people can find you.
Oh, it's pretty simple. Just search for DML or Dennis Michael Lynch, and I'm all over the place. I mean, I have a big presence on Facebook. That's my big thing. I don't do the other things. I should do it, but just look Dennis Michael Lynch on Facebook, and all my videos there go pretty wild.
Yeah, we've got your link down below.
I'll cut up even the little clips I cut up with you. I'll be nice to both of us.
All right, Dennis. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.